Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Jeffrey Adams, Director in Vancity's Sustainable Wealth Management Division. Welcome to Vancity's 2024 Financial Literacy Month series of webinars. We'd like to begin today by acknowledging that Vancity operates on the unceded lands of the Coast Salish people, represented today by the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. They have been keepers of this land since time immemorial, and as visitors, we would like to start this webinar by paying our respects to the elders of the past, the present, and emerging. We'll be hosting a free webinar every Wednesday in the month of November. The webinar series this year is called Cultivating Wealth. Each webinar in the series will walk through various life stages, from accumulating wealth through distribution. Today's webinar is the second in the series, Nurturing and Growing, Managing Wealth. This webinar will be recorded and shared with all registered attendees. It will also be posted to our YouTube channel following the event. If you haven't already, please make sure you follow us on YouTube and our other various social media platforms to stay connected for access to great content like this webinar. We encourage you to engage with us throughout this webinar and take note of what might be most helpful for you. The Q&A button allows you to submit questions. Please post questions throughout the webinar. We will be answering your questions following the presentation. With that, I'd like to now introduce you to our speakers. Our first speaker today is Jeanette Zhao, a wealth planner with Vancity Credit Union and Aviso Wealth. Jeanette was born and raised in Vancouver and is an accredited, certified financial planner with 15 years of experience in financial services. She holds a Bachelor of Business Administration from Simon Fraser University with concentrations in finance and accounting. Jeanette enjoys working with members from various walks of life and helping them to achieve their financial goals, regardless of what stage in life they find themselves. She strongly believes that to be a good advisor, you need to care about your members and strive to support them and their loved ones throughout their financial journey. Next up, we have Sophie Liu. Sophie is a wealth advisor with Vancity Credit Union and Aviso Wealth. Sophie is also an accredited certified financial planner and has more than a decade of experience in financial services. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of British Columbia with a concentration in economics. Sophie understands that financial circumstances and solutions are unique to each individual. She prides herself in working with households to develop tailored financial solutions and is passionate about empowering women through financial literacy, leading to long-term success. Finally, I would like to introduce Catherine Mandelkorn, Regional Manager of Wealth Solutions, who will be moderating the Q&A and also providing closing remarks. With that, I'd like to pass it to Jeanette.
Thank you, Jeff, for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeanette, and I'm excited to co-host today's webinar with my colleague, Sophie. And so in last week's webinar, you learned about ideas and considerations on planting the seed and how to accumulate wealth. In today's webinar, we would like to expand on the idea of nurturing and growing that seed that you have planted and discussing how to manage the wealth that you have accumulated. So as you transition from saving to investing and during the stage of wealth management, there are so many life events that you can go through and experience. More importantly, where you are in life will ultimately help shape your financial priorities and goals and help guide your investment decisions. Today, Sophie and I will walk you through a series of life events that you may or may not have experienced at one point or another in your life. Or maybe you're currently experiencing these. We will then talk about some of the financial considerations that relate to managing wealth. All right, so now I'm going to start off by introducing you to my friends, Raf and Maria. Raf and Maria are in their mid-30s and they have recently had their third child. Their children are 1, 3, and 5, with the oldest just starting kindergarten. They currently live with Raf's parents and with their growing family. They think it's time for them to purchase their own home with more space for their kids to grow up in. They had slowly been saving as much as they can over these last 5 years. Raf has a stable, long-term job in the auto industry, and prior to having kids and taking time off, Maria worked part-time as a dental assistant, but knew that she was not going to go back to that employer as she did not have any benefits there. Now that their children are in school and daycare, Maria has decided to go back to work full time and change her career. She had been working hard while she was on maternity leave and had studied to become a teacher. She had recently accepted a full time teaching job in the Vancouver School District. Raf and Maria had been slowly saving as much as they could over these last 5 years, as purchasing a home was a top priority for them. Now that they have a saving strategy for their home purchase, they would like to start focusing on saving and investing for their children's future education. Now, without further ado, I would like to go over the 4 life events that Raf and Maria are currently experiencing. And so, this first life event is when they were considering growing their family. At the time when they were considering growing their family, it was suggested that they did a review of what their current household cash flow looked like, as once they have children, their expenses will likely increase. It would be prudent to know that based on their current income and expenses, whether they have an income shortfall on either their current or future spending, and where they can make adjustments if needed to support their growing family. To do this, it would be helpful to make a list of both ongoing and new expenses, such as the cost of diapers, cribs, clothing, food, toys, for example. They should also research their childcare options ahead of time and find out what the costs of daycare are, or if they have a family network who can help take care of their children. By going through this exercise, Raf and Maria were able to begin allocating some of their savings towards these future expenses. They would also want to inquire with their employers about any parental leave benefits and how they will be compensated during the time they are taking off from work while raising a family. Finally, they would want to plan for the unexpected and make sure that they have a will and choose a guardian for their children if something unexpected were to happen to them. Next slide, please. And now I would like to talk about the second life event that they experience, which is a career change for Maria. So, as mentioned earlier, Maria is looking to go back to work full time since her children are in school and daycare now. She had been working towards a career change and had recently accepted a job as a teacher in the Vancouver School District. Before she had made that decision to change careers and accept her new job, there were some considerations that she had thought about. For example, will the employer offer a pension plan, which will help her save towards her retirement? And how would this plan work? Does the employer offer any additional benefits, such as personal health and dental benefits, or any insurance coverage? She also had to consider whether taking on this new job would give her a higher income, and if this higher income comes in the form of a base salary, a bonus, or other benefits. If the income was lower, she should make sure that there is a plan in place that they will have enough savings to cover their day to day and lifestyle expenses. It's so important to budget for living expenses during this in between time where you have ended a previous job and prior to starting your new job. Next slide, please. The third life event that Raf and Maria experience is planning for their first home purchase. So, as mentioned earlier, Raf and Maria currently live at home with their parents, and they don't have any rental expenses other than contributing to the cost of groceries. They finally have decided that it's time to buy their own home so their children have a place to grow up in. Before making this big decision, there are some considerations they should think about. Some of these considerations are: how much in savings do they have, and how much will they be using towards the down payment of their home purchase? They should also understand how much they can afford and what amount of monthly mortgage payments they would be comfortable with. Aside from the down payment, they should consider the additional closing costs when it comes to buying a property. Some of these closing costs could be the realtor's commission, appraisal fees, legal fees, property transfer taxes, and moving costs. But not only that, they should also consider having enough money set aside for future costs, such as for property taxes, strata fees, insurance, potential costs for future renovations, just to name a few examples. And finally, they should also consider the current economic outlook of the real estate market and what the current interest rates are, as these items would play a role on the size of their mortgage payment, the total interest they are paying, and how long it would take them to pay off this mortgage. And so when it comes to managing their wealth and the specific home purchase goal, there are certain ways that they can utilize their savings and use towards a first home purchase. So, for example, through their RSPs, they would qualify for the Home Buyers Plan Withdrawal Program. And this program would allow them to use a portion of the money they've contributed towards their RSPs for a down payment on a home. It's also worth mentioning that the money withdrawn will need to be paid back over a 15-year period back into their RSPs. Otherwise, that amount withdrawn would be considered as taxable income for the year. One more point on this is the maximum amount that they can each withdraw from the home buyers plan is up to $60,000. And one other savings vehicle that they could potentially utilize is called an FHSA, or a first home savings account. So this FHSA, it's a type of registered savings plan, but it was very, very recently introduced by the federal government in 2022. And so this is designed to help save for a first home tax-free. These contributions, they're tax deductible, and when a qualifying withdrawal is made, the amount withdrawn is not taxable. And then, unlike the home buyer's plan withdrawal, you don't have to repay this amount that's withdrawn. And then the lifetime contribution limit for this kind of program is $40,000, and the annual contribution limit is $8,000. Next slide, please. Finally, the fourth life event experience is setting up an education plan for their children. Raf and Maria would like to start saving as early as possible to help fund their children's future education. Some of these education expenses they have to consider are tuition fees, which could vary by institution and program, and whether they're going to be a full-time or part-time student. There are also costs of textbooks and other learning materials. Another potential expense would be whether or not their children would have additional accommodation expenses should they choose to live on campus or study abroad. Fortunately, there are financial aids such as government loans, grants, scholarships, and bursaries that can help with some of these expenses. You can even inquire with your employer to see if they provide scholarships. Finally, there are savings vehicles such as a registered education savings plan that they can set up for their children, where their contributions towards this kind of plan will attract government grants and bonds. So now I'm going to pass you over to my wonderful colleague, Sophie, who will go over some other life events with you.
Hi, everyone. This is Sophie, and thank you so much, Annette, for sharing the first set of life events. And let's continue on our discussion on this topic of the life events that during the nurturing and growing life stage. I would like to first share a story which may echo with some of you with the life event that happened to this client. Thomas is a 45-year-old high school teacher, and like many people at this stage of life, Thomas is hoping to work hard, save, and invest wisely in hope to retire early at 60 years old instead of the traditional 65. But his journey is full of challenges and tough decisions that many of us may face as we are trying to accumulate enough to retire. So Thomas recently went through a divorce. After 20 years of marriage, he and his wife Claire decided to part ways. While the divorce was amicable, it had a significant impact on Thomas' financial situation. They had built a life together, including joint accounts, retirement savings, a home, and 2 teenage children. In the divorce, Thomas had to divide all of their assets, including their retirement accounts and their matrimonial home. He had hoped to rely on a more sustainable nest egg, But the division has left him with a reduced retirement fund and a difficult decision at this life stage. Should I buy another home, which can potentially put me with a mortgage balance at retirement, or if I should rent for the rest of my life? His pension as a teacher at retirement will provide him with some income, but it may not be enough to cover the lifestyle he has envisioned if he retires at 60. And whether his municipal pension plan has a bridge benefit, which is to bridge the income gap between 60 to 65 years old, can cause different financial situations. Because if Thomas decided to take his Canada pension plan early at 60 years old, he may face reduced 36% CPP payment for the rest of his life, and the old age security payment does not start until he reaches 65 years old. This is a crucial part for his retirement planning, and he doesn't know where to start, nor how to potentially close this income gap should he retire early. He worked as a teacher for over 20 years, and he also started to have growing health concerns, chronic back pain, and ongoing stress that have made the demands of teaching more difficult to bear. His doctor have suggested that working longer may accelerate his health problems, and retirement at 60 could allow him to heal and focus on a less physically demanding lifestyle. This is another financial hurdle. He anticipates higher medical costs as he ages, especially if his back condition worsens. And he may need to explore options for health insurance coverages after retirement as well. So these above concerns has prompted him to rethink his whole financial planning. Will he have to delay his retirement? Can he retire early? Or will he have to adjust his expectations? So the whole planning that Thomas was considering include retirement planning, for example, which Vancity Advisor helped to prepare a retirement analysis after helping to review his work pension plan and provided detailed breakdown of what potential income looks like at age 60 and how much additional saving may be required to start now to close that potential future income gap. And the wealth advisor also helped with the marriage breakdown planning, which helped Thomas to review the financial challenges he may face with single income and ongoing support payments. Home purchase against rental planning was reviewed by Vancity Advisor as well. The advisor helped with some hypothetical scenarios to compare, for example, affordability, how much Thomas can qualify with his current income, and debt and down payment on a mortgage, and how much mortgage payment he may face, and what mortgage balance could be at retirement. And they reviewed ways to pay down the mortgage faster should he choose to purchase a home. Last but not least, we also reviewed on the cash flow impact if he chooses to rent for the rest of his life. Health and insurance coverage planning was referred to an insurance specialist to identify the potential gap and additional coverage that may need at Thomas' retirement. So let's now take a detailed look on the life events that could happen during this life stage. I would like to first talk about health changes. Experiencing health issues that require medical expenses or insurance adjustment. Health and medical financial planning means preparing for the potential health expense, both in short term and long term. It is important to assess what your current and future health care needs are, estimating the cost of those needs, and developing a strategy to pay for them. As you age, the likelihood of developing health issues increases, which may bring the need to factor in potential medical expenses. The cost of care, which could include, for example, expenses for medication, medical devices, long-term care in the form of care home expenses or care aid expenses. Other considerations that can happen during this life stage include aging parents and ways to help with taking care of them. Finally, living longer. Statistically speaking, as number of Canadians are living longer, can increase the longevity risk. Do we have enough to retire during our late retirement? Vancity Advisor can help to put together plans to meet your financial goals during this life stage. Next, I would like to chat about retirement planning. You will notice that during the nurturing and growing life stage, you may starting to save more aggressively towards retirement. Retirement is a significant life transition, marking the accumulation of years of hard work and experiences. It is so important to remember that the quality of this phase rests a lot on the work that was done in the years before. The steps of retirement planning may include assess your current financial situation, identify what are some of your retirement income sources, consider your retirement goals, and the retirement lifestyle expectations as well. We would be setting a target retirement age, determine if there is any shortfall should we retire at that age, and steps to take to reduce or eliminate the shortfalls. Having financial security could mean having the knowledge that your saving, investment, and other assets can comfortably support the lifestyle you envision. And it could mean being prepared for unexpected expenses like repairs or helping a family member in need during retirement. It could include any legacy considerations and knowing that not only your future, but your loved one's future are also secure. It could mean giving back and contributing to the causes close to your heart, like donation. Now let's talk about the marriage, partnership, or divorce and separation. When getting married or facing divorce, there are many financial considerations that we need to consider, including, for example, asset and debt, which may include how you would like to manage your financial affairs, jointly or separately. Upon separation, how assets and debt being split may lead to detailed financial considerations. Budgeting. When getting married, especially after having kids, your family budget may look very different. And the Vancity advisors can be here to help with the cash flow analysis to assure that you are staying on top of your plans and goals. Upon divorce and changing from dual income to single income also requires detailed cash flow analysis that we can help with. Beneficiary and insurance reviews. Marriage or divorce may trigger to review current insurance coverages and beneficiaries named in different accounts and policies. Prenup agreement, which can be helpful and require legal advice. Last, let's take a look at owning a business or having a mature business at this life stage. As many business owners may be very busy managing their business and growing their business and drive their business returns, it's easy to neglect the personal retirement planning, leading to inadequate planning for their own retirement. Also, as business may be cyclical, managing unpredictable income streams can be complicated, and the budgeting and financial planning is crucial to variable business income. Insurance needs. Funding appropriate insurance coverage for example, like liability, property, and employee benefits without overspending can be an important factor when we're looking at overall business planning. Tax obligations. Navigating complex tax regulations and ensuring timely payments can be overwhelming, and it's extremely important to work with a qualified accountant to manage that business taxation. So at Vancity, we have our business advisors and wealth advisors that we jointly help you with your business planning, which may include, for example, business loans, business line of credits, retirement planning for self-employed individuals, business succession planning when you are approaching retirement and hoping to either pass down your business to the next generation or selling your business. As there are many business planning tips, I highly recommend to refer to an excellent past webinar on Vancity YouTube channel, which is called Business Planning Tips for Vancity from Vancity Credit Union, and you'll find many more helpful information there. So next, I would like to pass this presentation back to Jeanette to share about some common financial considerations that could happen during these life stages.
Thank you so much, Sophie. So next, I do want to talk about some financial considerations or decisions you may need to make during each of the life events we have just discussed. So you've already learned from last week's webinar about the importance of budgeting and debt management. And with each life event, it's important to have a budget in place and be able to manage any debts effectively. In case you missed that webinar, it is available to watch on Vancity's YouTube channel. And when it comes to savings goals, it can seem like an overwhelming task. So I would suggest that you first define and prioritize your goals and ask yourself, what exactly will you be saving for? Then determine how much you'll need to save and when you may need the funds by. And finally, set up a savings strategy where you can even pay yourself first by setting up an automatic savings plan to start towards savings towards these goals. Following up on the topic of savings goals, you may want to consider building an emergency cash fund. You could start setting aside money in an accessible account based on what your cash flow allows. Your goal should be to save enough to cover all your expenses for 3 to 6 months at a minimum, in case you find yourself without income due to unexpected events and expenses. Next slide, please. Next, you will have to make some investment decisions with the hard-earned money you have worked for and saved. For this, you would want to consider your financial situation, your goals, your investment time horizon, your risk tolerance, market conditions, inflation and interest rates, and the returns and risks associated with different investment options. With regards to insurance, there are so many different types of insurance, including health, life, property. So it's important to start by looking at what you're hoping to protect and why. So, for example, your considerations can be different if you have young children and a large mortgage versus if you have no dependents and no debts. You would also want to determine if you have enough coverage. If something tragic happened to you today, would your loved ones be able to continue living that same quality of life? For example, how would the mortgage be paid? What about college tuition? Have you considered the cost of long-term care? And finally, when it comes to estate planning, it's important to make arrangements for the benefit and protection of your loved ones with an estate plan. The details will depend on your stage in life and whether you're married, have children, or have other legacy goals or whatever your individual circumstance is. So I know that this seems like there can be an over amount of information and details in these sessions. So I would encourage everyone that has questions or would like more information on anything we've just spoken about to go into a Vancity branch and speak with one of the members of our team. It doesn't matter if you have a lending inquiry, a savings or investment inquiry, or even a planning inquiry, right? We are there for our members like yourselves, irrespective of that life stage that you're in. Right? And at Vancity, we do have a team of specialists at each branch that would love to meet you. And the important thing I want you to know is that we will meet our members where they're at and that we will always, always lead with advice first. We're here to help you. And with that, I'm going to pass this presentation back to Sophie, who will talk to you about how to start planning for key life events.
Now that we have discussed some of the financial considerations that people may face, let's talk about how you can take control of your financial future. Life can throw many curveballs, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by these sheer number of things that you need to consider. That's why it's so important to have a clear action plan, and this often means working with a financial professional. So what can you do if you're facing financial challenges during your accumulation years or any stage of life? How do you create a plan that helps you to address your concerns and put you on the right path towards the financial security? I want to break it down to some important steps that you can take to get started. So number one, recognize that you don't have to do this alone. Number two, meet with your financial professional at Vancity. Your Vancity advisor will help you to define your financial goal together and make a detailed list of the goals and you want to accomplish and help you to find your gaps and concerns. And will also help you to gather your financial documents as they are key to your financial planning. Some of the important documents includes, for example, income and employment information like pay stubs, pension information, or any other income sources that you have, investment accounts, any brokerage account, investments accounts, any mortgage or student loans, car loans, or any credit card balances. Those information are also important. Insurance policies like health, life, disability insurance policies. If you're planning for long-term care, any policies related to that as well. Your tax returns, like your last few years of tax return, like notice of assessments or T1 general tax return, will give a clear picture of your overall financial health. So having these documents at hand will help us to assess your overall financial situation and give you a more tailored advice. Number four, your Vancity advisor will help you to with the detailed analysis through Vancity Advice Plan. And it's important to stay committed to the action plan and review your progress with us regularly. While life can be unpredictable and we face unique financial challenges, taking the time to sit down with us can be one of the most important steps that you take in addressing those concerns. So earlier this year, the launch of Vancity Advice Plan has been one of the highlights. Whichever life stage you may be at, Vancity Advisor can help you to set clear, actionable goals and navigate through the complex financial decisions and create a path that helps you to secure your stable future. Take a look at our webpage. Whether you are unsure about what you would like to achieve, or you are already working on your goals and needing just a check-in session, we're here to support you throughout the financial journey. Remember, the sooner you start working with us, the sooner you can get your financial house in order and move forward with confidence, knowing that you're making informed decisions and you're in line with your financial goals. And with that, thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you enjoyed the session today and had some takeaways from the session and ready to book your next appointment with us. I'm going to pass the presentation back to Catherine, who will lead our Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Jeanette and Sophie. We have some questions, and I think some are rolling in as well. So while those come in, what I heard in both scenarios is that we all go through various life events throughout our lives, and money seems to be the central point to all these events. It's certainly not the most important part. Health, shelter, family often hold the highest value, but understanding how to best plan for your money may give you a greater sense of peace of mind in the face of expected and unexpected life events. And Jeanette and Sophie, you both mentioned budgeting during this stage. And I think that this is really important to highlight because budgeting doesn't just happen when you're a student or when you're just starting out in your adult life. Having awareness of your money in and your money out is a concept that we all can integrate at every stage of life. Jeanette, as you spoke about, there are several things that Raf and Maria were considering, such as going back to work, purchasing a home, childcare costs, saving for their future, and for their children. So knowing how much you have coming in and going out helps you plan so much more effectively. That was my takeaway. And I know many people don't enjoy looking at their spending to understand how much they have to save or what is left over. So I think the biggest takeaway for me is to encourage our viewers really you don't have to do all this on your own. Meet with an account manager, wealth relationship manager, a wealth planner, wealth advisor. We have a lot of really great people at Vancity that can guide you and get you started. You don't have to know where you need to start. Just come with your questions. So with that, I'm going to move over to questions. Segue there to Niten. So the first question here, I think probably relates to budgeting that we were just speaking about. So I'm good at managing my expenses and typically have a surplus at the end of each month. However, I am unsure of the best way to allocate or invest this surplus effectively. Who wants to take that question?
I think I can take that one. Or if Janet wants to add anything as well. It's surely important to review, especially on the cash flow, whether you have shortfalls, which we want to put an action plan to close those shortfalls right away, to manage your discretionary or non-discretionary spending, which is the necessity items that we can't cut on, and the part of your expense that we may need to take a look whether it's necessary. So when you have a surplus, there are many places we can consider to put those surplus in. For example, you can build and strengthen your emergency fund. Having a safety net can provide you that peace of mind. Aim for somewhere around 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses that's easily accessible. So if in a low risk, maybe savings account or cashable term deposit in case if any emergency events, this will help you in case of those needs. Maybe you want to take a look at, do you have any debt? What are some high interest debt that you currently have? Like, for example, credit card. The interest rate on credit card can be quite significant. And if you do have that surplus, you may want to eliminate the credit card balance first. And next, maybe take a look if you don't have any of those concerns because you already saved your emergency savings and you don't have a credit card debt, you pay off everything on a monthly basis. You may look at tax advantaged account, like for example, the tax-free savings account, your registered retirement savings account, RRSPs, even your FHSA, the first time home buyer tax-free savings account. Beyond the regular non-registered account, all of these tax advantages account may provide different taxable assistance on your wealth accumulation, whether the tax-free savings account provide tax-free savings on your returns upon withdrawal, upon growth, or if you're a high income earner and you have available RRSP contribution room, you want to take advantage of the taxable income deduction by contributing into your RRSP account while your money can grow tax deferred. This may be building towards a more secure retirement nest egg. So take a look at those places where you can allocate these surpluses. But ultimately, everyone's situation is very different and everyone's situation is unique. So I highly recommend to book that meeting with us so we can take a look what is your situation. We can tailor out what your plan is.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of great tips. But yeah, overall, it sounds like it depends, right? And so not being afraid to reach out to ask questions, I think is probably the biggest takeaway and answer there too, because there are so many different solutions. It's not one solution fits everybody. So yeah, being able to ask questions. Yes,
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing on top of what Sophie was saying too, is like in the presentation it was mentioned that you can do something called paying yourself first, right? So if you do have that extra surplus savings, a lot of people kind of don't remember what, or know what paying yourself first means, but really it could be as simple as just setting like a monthly contribution into a savings plan, right? So that could be, your goal is to save for retirement. It could be like, for example, you're going to put in an extra $100 a month towards an RSP, or maybe you're wanting to save for your kids, right, into the RESP or FHSA. So just kind of like having that set up automatically. You don't have to think, oh shoot, like I just got paid, but I forgot to transfer money into the savings account. So I do find that having something automatically set like that, it's very helpful because you just kind of leave it and then you forget about it, and all of a sudden, wow, like you've got quite a bit of savings saved up.
Great. Thank you, Jeanette. Yeah, paying yourself first is such a great tool for not only for cash flow, but also for saving and investing for the long term. And then some may feel too, well, I don't even know where to start with how much should I put into an amount that I put away monthly. Start with something, and again, get some guidance. Sophie, I think it was you that mentioned, or Jeanette, around doing some cash flow budgeting work. Is something that we offer at Vancity along with the investment support. So, okay, great. Thank you both. We've got a couple more questions. This one, I think this is a common question that I've heard, is how can I effectively balance paying down my mortgage with saving for retirement? What's that one?
I can take that one. So I think it kind of does piggyback on what we had just discussed as well, because of course, we're not all linear people, right? We have multiple goals, multiple things that we want to achieve. So one, of course, being paying down a mortgage or paying down debt. Sophie did mention earlier that, ideally, if you have the debt, you want to first pay down the debt that's a higher cost first. So any debt that comes with a higher interest rate, that ideally you would want to pay off first. And there's also that conversation where we always have to say, well, if I have a chunk of money, should I pay down my mortgage or should I use this money to invest? And I say, ideally, if you could do both, that's great. There are certain ways that you could actually reduce your mortgage payments or debt faster, right? So for example, with mortgages, aside from your regular monthly payments, most financial institutions would have an option for you where you can just make an annual lump sum payment, right? So you can make an annual lump sum payment, and that will very, very quickly help you more aggressively pay down your mortgage. It's going to reduce your principal, and it's also going to reduce the amount of interest that you pay over the long run, right? Another way that you can reduce your mortgage payments or even your loan payments is you can always change your payments. So say, for example, if your payments were monthly mortgage payments, you can always change them to something called an accelerated biweekly payment strategy. And essentially, instead of making the 12 payments a year or 24 payments semi-monthly, by doing an accelerated biweekly payment, you're making 26 payments in that year, right? At a higher payment. And again, those little kind of changes, can really help you reduce your debt and the amount of interest that you pay, right? And then in return, whatever excess you have, you can then also allocate to a savings plan.
Great.
And I just want to probably quickly add on that. I think there is no right or wrong answers because you can have different financial goals at the same time. It's awesome to be debt free and having that peace of mind that you don't have to be committed to that monthly payment. And but also, you are worried that are you saving enough for your retirement? Do I have enough from whether my own sources, my own savings, and in addition from the government pension plans? I think it's important to review with your advisor, just on, for example, what your mortgage balance is. Will you be carrying on mortgage balance into your retirement? Should you just, pay it regularly? What is your current mortgage interest rate is? If you're in a low rate environment, maybe it makes sense to, pay extra or because it pays more into the principal. But because there's always a limit, like Jeanette just shared, it's not like you can pay everything back without the penalty. A lot of times, if you do want to pay additional payments more than what the allowable amount is, there is penalty usually involved, and we don't want that. And of course, assess your income and see where your income tax brackets sit at, right? If your marginal tax rate is showing that you are a high income earner paying at 42, 52% tax bracket, you may want to take a look at, saving more and reduce your taxable income, and then maybe use that tax refund to pay into your mortgage. End of the day, there are many different approach when it comes to paying down a mortgage while we're also taking care of the retirement goal. And just book a meeting with us and we'll help you to review that.
Great, thank you both. I like how you said that there are many different approaches, Sophie, right? You mentioned, you might have a mortgage going into retirement. And I think for so many, we feel like that needs to be paid off before retirement, but with proper planning and cash flow look and a look to the future, that may not need to be the case and may not need to put extra pressure on your current state in order to get there. So yeah, looking at all those aspects. Thank you both. I want to jump to this question because it's kind of in line with what we're talking about right now. What can I do to best prepare for a meeting with an advisor when going in to speak about budgeting and saving?
I can take that one on since I was talking about preparing for the advisor meetings. So in general, I would say there are a couple of things. Usually your advisor will be reaching out to you after we see your appointment in our calendar prior to the appointment, either by call or email, and we'll give you usually a list that can be helpful in preparation for the meeting. For example, I usually advise my client to set up a MyCRA account where there is useful information like your RRSP contribution room, your available tax-free savings account contribution room, because we want to avoid the situation of over-contribution, which may cause you penalties. And we will sometimes ask you to prepare for your notice of assessments and your T1 tax return. The notice of assessment can also be downloaded from your MyCRA account. And I also highly recommend to set up a My Service Canada account, as a lot of times your CPP payment or OAS payment or estimation even are actually showing on My Service Canada account. And other than that, if you have habit of tracking your expenses, that can be quite helpful with cash flow planning, because it's key planning in any sort of financial planning. And you may be able to write down some of your regular ongoing non-discretionary and discretionary cost. And other than that, if you are an employee and working full-time, you want us full-time or part-time, you want us to review your pension plan, you may be able to, before the meeting, reach out to your human resource department and get a copy of your pension details, and we'll be able to help you with the pension analysis as well. Last but not least, if you're a self-employed individual and you have a company, you are able to also bring us the company related financial statements, and it will be helping us. And I want to say that financial planning is a journey. It's not a one-time and end of the day type of thing. We have our regular check-ins, and we're probably also updating you and changing as you go, because each year your position, your income, your family status, everything can be different. And we do regular check-in with you to make sure that you are staying on top of your goals and plans. And again, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have a Vancity Advice Plan that highlights this year. We can also help you by sending you the Client Fact Finder, which can help you to navigate preparing for your advisor meetings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sophie. I've got another question here. Given the higher than usual inflation over the past 2 years, I'm concerned about its impact on my wealth. What strategies can I use to protect my assets from inflation? I might go to Sophie for this one.
For sure,
Or
I would take it on.
Okay.
I think that's such a valid topic because really, we are seeing the volatility, whether with the market and the almost double-digit inflation. I think it's really important to take a look at protecting our hard-earned money and protecting our wealth from inflation, because really inflation will lower your purchasing power and devalue your money. And we want to make sure that we have strategies that we can use to preserve the purchasing power over time and the true value, the real value of your money. So I think a couple things I can speak of, first of all, diversification, right? Diversifying your investment across asset classes, industries, and geographies can help to reduce that risk and better protect against inflation. As you know, global diversification is important because the inflation rates and economic conditions can vary between countries. Consider different mixing of your investments, whether stock, bond, real estate, commodities, and inflation-protected securities within your investment portfolio. Those are all ways to diversify your holdings and protect the value of your money for the long term. Another thing I think, as I mentioned in my presentation, debt reduction is one focus as well. Of course, if you have variable rate that tied in with policy rate, Bank of Canada policy rate, you want to make sure that you reduce the higher interest rate debt first, whether it's credit card debt or variable rate loans. You want to avoid by paying more into those during the high inflationary period of time and release that stress from your shoulder. Review your budget and expenses. As we see in the last 2 years with inflation, it really drive up our day-to-day expenses. I think it's important to budget and account for the higher cost and making sure that you do your cash flow analysis with your advisor and cutting down on the non-essential spendings during that period of time and shifting to a more cost-effective alternatives for goods and services, right? Last but not least, I think, being in Vancouver, being in BC, I think real estate is a big topic. And of course, real estate can be an effective way against hedge against inflation, whether you're looking at rental properties or primary residence or rental income that in line with inflation. But making sure that it fits into your lifestyle as well, because, pouring everything into fixed asset may not be a great idea. And there are ways of not physically owning an asset, like, for example, your real estate income trust, which is another way that you can gain exposure to the real estate market without actually owning a property. So those are some tips that I can give. And of course, there are many more, and we can discuss in the meetings in the future and tailor out a plan that's for you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sophie. We've got time for another question. I think this one came in when we were talking about paying down the mortgage or saving for retirement. So I think it ties into there. Is it better to save in an RRSP or an FHSA to save for purchasing our first home? Jeanette, did you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so I'll take this one. And so ideally, if you're able to save towards both, I would say save towards both the RSP and the FHSA because they both have different benefits. And so to start, for the RSP, of course, anytime you make a contribution towards your RSP, it is fully tax deductible, right? Which is also very similar to the FHSA, right? Any amount that you make, any contribution you make towards the FHSA is also fully tax deductible. The difference, though, is with the FHSA, you are subjected, because it's such a new program, you are subjected to certain annual limits, right? So I mentioned in the presentation that with the FHSA, the lifetime contribution limit right now is $40,000. And so if you do have an FHSA account open, the annual contribution that you can make is $8,000. right? And let's just say, for example, if you did have an FHSA account open last year, and you didn't make a contribution then you're allowed to carry over 1 year's worth of contribution room. So if you look at it from that perspective, okay, the maximum amount you can save is $40,000 in there. But the RSP potentially you could save more towards that. And with an RSP contribution room, that really depends on what your earned income is for the year, right? And so earned income would be anything, for example, your salary would be considered your earned income, and how the CRA would calculate your RSP, your annual RSP contribution limit would be 18% of that earned income. And so from the RSP perspective, if you do have a high income, then you would be able to contribute to both and be able to save more towards your home purchase. With the RSP, the home buyer's plan withdrawal, maximum that you can withdraw per partner or spouse is $60,000, right? So for example, if we've maximized both spouses RSPs, that would be $60,000 each for a total of $120,000 towards a home purchase. Plus, if each have an FHSA and they've maximized it, that could be another $80,000 for that. Sorry. One more thing I wanted to mention actually is because for the FHSA, let's just say, for example, you open the account and you had full intentions of contributing or of purchasing a property, but it just, whatever the economic condition is, maybe you decided, hey, maybe we shouldn't purchase a place now. So the one good thing about the FHSA is you can actually, if you don't end up using that money towards a first home purchase, you can actually transfer it directly back into your RSP. So it's not something where you have to worry that, hey, like, is that money, I committed it to purchase a place, but now that, my plans fell through, what do I do? You don't need that money at all. You would be able to transfer that back into your RSP. You're not going to get another tax deduction because it was already, you already benefited from the initial tax deduction. But by the same token, you will not get taxed on that withdrawal from the FHSA.
Fantastic. Thanks for the distinction. Okay. All right. Thank you both, Sophie and Jeanette, for all your tips and scenarios and wealth of knowledge. Much appreciated. This webinar was our second in a series of 4. It was the managing wealth stage, and it sounds like it's not all about managing investments. It's from all parts, from budgeting to saving to managing expenses to then knowing what are the appropriate accounts and savings vehicles that we can use to reach our goals. And ultimately, you do not have to know how to do this all by yourself. The goal of these webinars is to provide the education so that you've got the words, the tools, the awareness, so you're not fully abdicating to an advisor, that you're coming in with some questions and things to support your own journey around your finances. So we have our next webinar is next Wednesday. Is the third in the series of 4. So the next one is called Harvesting, and it's Preserving Your Wealth. It's Wednesday at 12 p.m. till 1 p.m. There's a QR code here on the screen. You can scan that with your phone camera, and it will take you to the link to register. And if you register, you will also get a recording of the webinar after. And all of these webinars will be on the Vancity YouTube page. So with that, thank you so much for attending, and we'll see you next week.